If you told me 2 months ago I was going to be making a video about the Little Mermaid remakes, Part of Your World, I would have said, cool, easiest video I've ever done. I'm just going to bash it and say it's the worst thing ever and my Joker moment and my villain backstory and call it a day. But is it really that bad? Let's dive into it. A core component of the performance of Part of Your World is imperfection. Not every note is sung perfectly because it's about the emotion that's being portrayed by the singer. I've watched so many performances of Part of Your World, and I have to say it's probably one of the most difficult Disney songs to sing. Genuinely, I put it up there with, Let It Go and that song from the Tangled cartoon series that spans, 27 notes. While it doesn't have the range of Let It Go, in fact, the song only spans about an octave, it has so many little imperfections and inflections in there that trying to replicate it is almost impossible. I can't hold anybody up to the standard of Jodie Benson because Jodie Benson's performance was the result of Howard Ashman sitting in the booth with her for hours coaching her on every line. Nobody could do that again. I don't even think Jodie Benson could do that again. So when I judge Halle Bailey, I want to judge her for her performance, not to the standard that Jodie Benson set. The reason why I was so harsh on Poor Unfortunate Souls is because I felt they were trying to replicate the original and not doing a good job at it. However, for Part of Your World, they took it in a different direction, so I can't exactly judge it one-to-one. Though a lot of us will always prefer the original, myself included, we have to accept that art is transformative and people will have different takes on it over time. So when Halle Bailey performs her own rendition of the song, I'm not going to automatically bash it. This performance did resonate with a lot of people, and I want to give it a chance so I can see why. With that out of the way, let's get into the first lines.
Look at this stuff, isn't it neat? Wouldn't you think my collection's complete?
This opening line is obviously iconic, and I think one of the reasons why it works so well is because of the use of the rhyme neat and sweet. I think those high E sounds add a level of childishness, and that helps establish the naivete of Ariel. Something I find interesting about the remake is that it starts with an imperfection. The first few words are actually spoken.
Look at this stuff, isn't it neat?
I think the way she says that line and kind of whispers it out communicates a sense of wonder she has regarding the things around her. Something they did take away from the original, however, are the strings that come up.
Complete. Wouldn't you think my collection's complete?
I think that those strings added a level of depth to the instrumentation in the original, so I am disappointed that they were taken out. But I could also understand why. I think they had a different fidelity to them, and they may have sounded too full for the scene in a full high-definition orchestra. I do miss that 80s synth a lot, though.
Everything.
Even though Halle sounded strained on those first few lines, she did manage to make the ending word, everything, sound natural, so she wraps it up pretty nicely. I also think that Halle did this line well.
Sure, she's got everything.
I think she captures that playful sarcasm as well as the original. Now, a complaint I do have with the remake is the visuals. I think it is too poorly lit for us to see how vast Ariel's collection is, and seeing the size of her collection would also show us the depth of her fascination with the world above.
I've got gadgets and gizmos aplenty. I've got who's its and what's its galore.
In the higher register here of the instrumentals, we have a flute, and in the lower registers, we have a cello, and I think those two come together so beautifully. The cello adds a certain sorrow to the scene, like she knows she has all these things, but she still feels empty inside.
But who cares? No big deal.
And then the rest of the strings come in as she says the line to finalize the verse.
I want more.
The remake, instead of having a solo cello, has a full string section, which makes the whole thing sound more full. Whether you think that takes away from the feeling of loneliness or not is up to you.
I've got gadgets and gizmos aplenty. I've got who's its and...
Another thing Halle's performance added was a sound of subtle frustration when she says the line, I've got 20.
I got 20.
I think that's a nice beat, but it does bother me how strange she sounds while building up to the word more.
But who cares? No big deal.
Jodie Benson's version was in a more quiet register, so she doesn't sound nearly as strained while building up to that line. In fact, it's pretty quiet even when she hits it. When Halle says it, there's a bit of desperation and excitement behind it.
Want more.
Either way, both songs return to that dreamy, quieter quality that the second verse has.
I want to be where the people are.
Listen to how Jodie practically whispers those lines. It's filled with so much wistfulness and dreaminess. And those spare instrumentals highlight the somber loneliness she feels in all of this. Something I find interesting about this line is the word people. She's not saying she wants to be where the humans are. She's saying she wants to be where the people are. I think what this means is she wants to be where her people are, where she belongs. And listen to the quality of Ariel's voice when she says dancing.
I wanna see 'em dancing.
That subtle breath communicates the excitement she's feeling at the prospect of watching humans dance. Dance probably being a metaphor for how they are and how they live.
Wanna see 'em dancing.
I like the visual here that shows Ariel is daydreaming and moving along with it. I feel the delivery just isn't as delicate as it is in the original, though. Another thing that the remake is missing is this nice little moment between Ariel and Flounder.
What do you call 'em? Oh, feet.
Obviously, this is a lot harder to pull off when Flounder is just a hyper-realistic fish with no emotion. What the remake does do with that line, though, is use it to build up to the new direction it takes the song.
Flipping your fins, you don't get too far.
When I was going back and forth between these two songs to compare them, it was at this point where I realized the actual intent of the remake version. The original version is being driven by wistfulness, while the remake version is being driven by excitement. Listen to those strings underneath giving the song a rhythm.
Are required for jumping, dancing, strolling along down a...
This is markedly different from the original version of the song, which at this point is still subdued.
Flipping your fins, you don't get too far.
At this point, it becomes a matter of personal preference. Do you relate more to the somber wistfulness or the excitement at what could be?
Up where they run, up where they stay all day in the sun.
Up where they walk, up where they run is a powerful lyric because walk implies living, but run implies thriving.
Up where they run, up where they stay all day in the sun.
I think the build-up in both versions is effective. Again, one is just more dramatic than the other. The original focuses more on the harp and the little twinkling sound effects, while in the remake it's more focused on strings.
Day in the sun, wandering free. All day in the sun, wandering free.
That's a pretty major imperfection in Hallie's performance, and again, I like that this song is meant to be imperfect. The emotion is cracking through her voice because she's so excited at the prospect of leaving the water.
Free. Wish I could be part of that world.
I actually hear a tinge of desperation in Hallie's voice there. It somewhat recontextualizes Ariel's character and makes her dream of seeing the surface world more of a fervent desire than a far-off wish. What you connect with more is, again, a matter of personal preference.
Would be part of that world.
I'm always going to prefer the visuals of the original over the remake, though, and this shot is a good example. The way that the sun is shining through the top of the water is a lot more prominent in the original than the remake, where the colors are all muted. As an aside, I could do without this gag, and I'm glad they removed it in the remake.
If I could live out of these waters.
It distracts from the setup of these brilliant lyrics. This stanza is an A-B-A-B rhyme scheme with rhymes between the A-B-A-B, and it sounds completely natural. The one word that seems out of place is reprimand, but this is kind of reflected in how Ariel pauses for just a little second before she says that word.
Bet they don't reprimand their daughters.
This makes it sound like it's a more difficult word for her, one that she doesn't use very often. Hallie doesn't do this, but she does say the word with a lot of spite.
Bet they don't reprimand their daughters.
By the way, another instance of a solo cello being replaced with a full string section. I will critique that I find that to be unimaginative instrumentation. Now we're getting into the parts of the song that really cause controversy. A lot of people felt that this elaborated note was way too grandiose for the song. And I can understand that because this song wasn't meant to be grandiose, it was meant to be a quiet monologue, and at first it really bothered me too. But the more I thought about it, and the more I saw people connect with it, I realized that it's okay that things are different. It's about the general quality of it, and I think the general quality is pretty good when you separate it from the original version. The thing about Part of Your World is that it is such a personal song. So many people connect with it, not because they're mermaids, but because they feel like they're marginalized and don't fit in with general society, but they dream of being part of it. I had a lot of comments on my last couple videos saying that it's a movie for kids, why should I care? And it's because you care. You were offended by the fact that I said that a movie for kids had problems with it. And you care because you connected with those movies. Not because you're a little kid, but because they have real messages and real emotions that we can relate to and we can take from. In the original test screenings for Part of Your World, it wasn't the kids that were crying, it was the adults. So I can totally understand why people would be so angry that the original was changed for the remake. But by the same coin, I could also understand why different people related to the new version and will defend it. Sure, it's grandiose, but a lot of people think their dreams deserve that sound, deserve to be that big, to be shouted to the world.
Ready to know what the people know.
While other people think that their dream is something personal that they can't say so loudly.
Ready to know what the people know.
It really just depends on who you are. Ariel wants to know everything about the world above, even fire and why it burns. She even wants to know the pain of this human experience, whether she knows it or not. She wants the highs and lows of a life she doesn't have. That's her final wish before the song culminates in its climax. And just listen to how the instrumentals meld with her voice to help bring out that emotion.
When's it my turn? Wouldn't I love?
I will say that in the remake, they're missing that lower register of the instrumentals, which takes away from that effect.
When's it my turn? Wouldn't I love?
This build-up melodically is absolutely masterful in any version of the song. That chord progression just has a way of sending chills up my spine. It's actually not a straight walk-up like you'd think. It's an F to an F7 to get that interval in there, then an A sharp to an A sharp minor to end on a more somber note.
Love to explore that shore above.
Now, I know this part has probably caused the most controversy, the extended hell note on above in the remake. In the original, Ariel's vocals stop with the instruments. Meanwhile, in the remake, this note is held for several seconds after the instruments cut out. Personally, this is where the remake loses me. I know I've said everything else I've said in this video, but for me, this moment is just too much. It's a very impressive note, but it's not one that I think fits the song even with the more excited flair. I also think the visual they used was weaker. In the original, the grotto represents that barrier between Ariel and the human world that she just can't get through. We can see the emotion on her face and how she stands out from the background. In the remake, everything is poorly lit and we don't get the shot of Ariel reaching through the grotto and her face at the same time. And at first I thought this somber ending didn't fit the remake, but then I thought about it some more and I realized it's kind of like a cold wake-up call.
Out of the sea, part of that world.
Ariel has to sit there and accept that right now, reality is in the way. So overall, is it really that bad? Is it really the travesty that some people say it is? I don't know. It's so personal. It's such a personal song. It really just depends on who you are and how you connect to things and what emotions you connect to more. I know that this movie means a lot to a lot of people, and Halle's casting means a lot to a lot of people, and I don't want to take that away from them in this particular case. I know that the remakes are generally pretty soulless cash grabs, but just this once, I want to believe that they did care. So, final verdict, is this the worst thing ever? In my opinion, no. I'll still prefer the original by a mile, but they could have also done a lot worse. But if this is the end of the world to you, that's also fine. That's just how you felt. Thank you for watching to the end of this video. If you liked it or if you didn't like it, leave a comment down below and tell me why, and I hope you have a great day.